You don't think the ceasefire is likely to lead to peace in the Middle East. Why?
I just think it's too deep a problem. I mean, one, Hamas is agreeing to a ceasefire insofar as they are. I mean, now they're killing their fellow Palestinians, and strangely, there's not much complaint about that coming from Hollywood or any of the ceasefire people, left of center, who ostensibly are worried about Palestinians. I mean, they would agree to a ceasefire so as to regroup, to live to fight another day. Not people who are going to be happily shopping in whatever mall that the Kushners and the Trumps and the Witkoffs build in Gaza City in a few short years should all this work out. The true believers are true believers. They're in a religious war, not just with Israel, but with everyone who's not Muslim.
Trying to understand the ideology of the radical Muslim jihadist, realizing that this is a real threat to our 21st century. And unless we understand it and realize it, there has to be a way that we can protect ourselves so that the world doesn't become subject to being pulled back to the 8th century.
It's like, how did Israel got attacked on October 7th by absolute barbarians, unambiguously so. I mean, the moral high ground could not be more clear. The very people who were raped and killed and tortured and kidnapped were the peaceniks in Israel, right? Not the ultra-Orthodox religious maniacs on the Jewish side or the settlers, or I mean, just the very people who are, you would think would do the most PR damage to the Hamas side of the story, and yet magically, they've managed to weaponize the information landscape in such a way that, I mean, wherever it wasn't already destroyed by the ambient level of anti-Semitism that exists in the world, Israel's reputation has been completely destroyed over the war in Gaza, just by having lost an information war.
They also haven't helped themselves, Sam.
No, they haven't even tried.
No, they haven't. Yeah. Number one. And number two, you have people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir who've been in the cabinet going around and saying things that are quite frankly just beyond the pale as well.
But there's just two of them.
Yeah.
There's only two anyone can name.
Yeah.
And but that when you hold that up against the reality of religious fanaticism on the other side, it's just, we're not talking about
I'm glad
world.
we're moving on to that issue, because you mentioned earlier that you don't think the ceasefire is likely to lead to peace in the Middle East. Why?
I just think it's too deep a problem. I mean, I think, one, Hamas is, agreeing to a ceasefire insofar as they are. I mean, now they're killing their fellow Palestinians, and strangely, there's not much complaint about that coming from Hollywood or any of the ceasefire people, left of center, who ostensibly are worried about Palestinians. But I mean, they would agree to a ceasefire so as to regroup, to live to fight another day, right? I mean, they're not people who are going to be happily shopping in whatever mall that the Kushners and the Trumps and the Witkoffs build in Gaza City in a few short years should all this work out. No, I mean, they're a death cult, right? They're real jihadists who really want things. They're not transactional. They're not secretly hoping to just be wealthy or just be. I mean, I'm sure there's some peripheral, cynical people who might be like that, but the true believers are true believers, and they're in a religious war, not just with Israel, but with everyone who's not Muslim, right?
And even Muslims as well.
Even Muslims who they consider to be apostates. And so when viewed from, I mean, this whole peace process is not credible from the point of view of real jihadists, right? It's like the people who are representing the other Arab interests. I mean, the crown prince of wherever is just another apostate who would be condemned by Al Qaeda or the Islamic State or Al Shabaab or any of the other organizations, including Hamas. I'm not saying all jihadists are the same, but the same in this regard, and that they really are committed to a longer-term project of winning a religious war.
Mm.
But
that's why the original Trump plan, it imposed dismantlement and disarmament of Hamas as part of its terms. Now, that hasn't transpired, but basically everyone in the region other than Iran and Hamas agrees that Hamas cannot be allowed to remain in power in Gaza. So the question is, can you get beyond that? And if you listen to our discussion with Joe, I made this point, which was about the Kushner plan, as I understand it, is to try and get the moderate Arabs to work with Israel in opposition to Iran. You have to get rid of Hamas for that to happen. And then you get them all trading together, and then they hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about the wealthy monarchs of the region who have the so-called Arab street to worry about. And the Arab street in, in scores of countries, I mean, there's 50 plus Muslim majority countries, not all Arab, is highly radicalized. It's not as radicalized as the Palestinians. I mean, the Palestinians Hamas is still popular among the Palestinians, especially in the West Bank. I think it's true to say that they would win an election in the West Bank today.
Also, as well, Sam, we need to take into account that the first thing that they did when Israel stopped bombing Gaza was it then went out and shot people it regarded as traitors, kneecapped them, tortured them, all the rest of them.
You can't be certain that the opinion polls reflect people's genuine
Yeah, but
sentiment.
you can be certain of the level of religious fanaticism in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, what people care about, they care about, above all, like the top of the list would be any desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. There's no number of kids you can kill that matters more than that. And that's bizarre. I mean, that's insane. That's the morally upside down, to have a culture that is framing their core moral concerns around religious fiction. Right. I mean, there are many cultures like that, but Islamic culture is the world over has the worst version of that. Right. I mean, it's, again, like you and I could say the three of us could say something on this podcast sufficiently provocative, or do something like burn a Quran that could literally cause embassies to burn tomorrow in a dozen countries. I mean, it's like that's the world we're living in. The Muslim community the world over is uniquely combustible based on the significance of religious symbols. And they're not uniquely combustible. I mean, they don't, we've seen protest after protest over things like cartoons and the naming of a teddy bear. We have not seen protests, certainly not sizable ones, over what an outrage it is that groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or Al-Shabaab or Al-Qaeda or Lashkar-e-Taiba or Boko Haram or any of these jihadists and Islamist groups, over the fact that they have committed atrocities against now practically countless innocent people, most of whom are Muslim. Right? Like, how can you not have 100,000 people turning up in the streets of London to protest the Islamic State at its height? Where were those protests? Where were all the Muslims who were desperate to disavow jihadism in the face of the Islamic State? I mean, what you had people dropping out of medical school in London, people dropping out of the London School of Economics to go join the Islamic State, to take Yazidi women as sex slaves, and then bragging about it on Twitter, right? And where were the protests? No, the protests were over the Danish cartoons, right?
What's your point, Sam?
The center of gravity for far too much of this community of 2 billion people in the world over, is around religious pride and humiliation, religious symbolism. It's not around the real consequential body count of, violence and peacemaking, right? It's not about most of the world, and certainly most of the Muslim world doesn't care when Muslims kill other Muslims. They care when Jews do it. Most of the world doesn't care when Muslims kill Christians, right? I mean, it's strange. I mean, this is something I'm genuinely surprised about and confused about. I'm not quite sure why fundamentalist Christians aren't more agitated around the murder of Christians in sub-Saharan Africa by Muslims. I mean, right now, the Islamic State is cutting the heads off of Christians in
it's Nigeria.
Nigeria, and maybe also Uganda, but it's definitely Nigeria. It's like you would think that would be a pretty big deal. It's not. It's no. It's the most inflammatory thing on earth is Jews killing Muslims in the Holy Land. So I mean, we need. I mean, yes, we desperately need a war of ideas, if not an actual civil war within the Muslim world in scores of countries, to nullify the cancer of jihadism. I mean, Islam plus jihadism is going to prove totally unworkable for open societies everywhere in the future. There's no way of assimilating jihadists. It's not. I mean, what you're experiencing in the UK right now is what it's like to have 6% of your society be Muslim, and some percentage of those Muslims to want to live under Sharia law, and some percentage of those Muslims to happily create, so-called grooming gangs, because it's in line with their view of how you think about infidel young girls. And you're trying to absorb all that, and you got Tommy Robinson out there complaining. The Muslim community has to figure out how to purge itself of this level of religious fanaticism and these specific commitments around things like punishing apostasy and blasphemy and in the fullness of time, maybe they'll do that. Under pressure, maybe they'll do that, but they're not tending to do it organically.
Well, this is where the Saudi and the UAE are interesting, right? Because they are trying to do this. They're trying to replace Islamism with a more moderate version plus economic growth. Yeah. So the young men in particular have things to do and a purpose in life and a family to feed and all this other stuff, and are not drawn towards these sorts of ideologies. Well, you seem skeptical about that.
Yeah, because I think these religious commitments are sincere for many, many millions of people. And also, it's just for everyone. I mean, wealth is not enough on some level. I mean, this is many people think they need religion. I mean, you're certainly aware of this, and you're talking about this more. And I mean, you and I view this differently. I think the burden is on us to understand that the real depths of human flourishing need to be talked about in ways that are non-sectarian. I mean, the truth is non-sectarian. The truth is not Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Jewish. So that's true of physics, and it's also true of the mind, right? Whatever's possible for us mentally and emotionally and socially, and whatever happens after death, and it's like to believe otherwise is to believe that one isolated community 2,000 years ago that had no access to science or even scientific values, much less scientific tools, got it perfectly right, and everyone else got it wrong, right? So one of these revealed texts is true, despite the fact that none of them seem to recognize that slavery was a problem morally, among other things. They know nothing about DNA or electricity or information science or the real scale of the cosmos or how disease spreads or anything, but they can tell you how to sacrifice a goat and they've got some good wisdom in there too, but they don't have a monopoly on that because, the Greeks had that and the Buddhists had that. And, the golden rule exists in many different contexts. And, even monkeys seem to intuit some basic version of it. When you treat them unfairly, or, reward one with a cucumber and another with a grape, they tend to not like that. Whatever's true about us spiritually and ethically is deeper than culture, and it's certainly deeper than any ancient culture, right? And the fact that the world was partitioned by language barriers and geographical barriers for thousands of years, and everyone came up with different books, is an artifact that we have to recognize as an artifact. It's specious, it's spurious. It's not the actual foundation of our moral knowledge or anything else. And when you go into the Bible and read it, and purport to find wisdom there, even if you're a fundamentalist, fundamentalists are picking and choosing the stuff they think is wise and the stuff they think is better left ignored. And they're doing that on the basis of a larger cultural conversation that is secular and that has moved on. So it's like the fact that you're still not trying to figure out whether you should kill somebody for working on the Sabbath if you're Jewish and reading the Pentateuch, or whether you really need to hunt witches in your community for the crime of witchcraft, right? But the fact that you can ignore all that and just take the so-called good stuff, again, that's an editing procedure that is the gold standard of that is your own moral intuitions that have been tuned up by your engagement with the 21st century, your inevitable engagement with the 21st century and a wider secular culture, right? So none of these religions have a monopoly on anything other than their own sectarian ignorance and tribalism and dogmatism. And all of that is best disavowed, and we can have a real conversation about what is truly transcultural and deeper than the artifacts of whatever grandma had in her bag before we knew anything about biology or the human brain or etc. But most of the world doesn't see it that way. Most of the world is mightily attached to whatever they got at mother's knee about the unique sanctity of a specific book and what happens after death. And they've organized their lives around it. And in the case of Islam, you're talking about a much wider culture that has been insulated from modernity to a remarkable degree and has not had the same kinds of collisions with rationality or science or secular politics. And so on some level, it's like we're dealing with the Christians of the 14th century in many, many places, and even on the streets of London.
Well, thank you for this incredible analysis and then a clear understanding of what the world is facing. What the world needs to appreciate, that Israel has been fighting a war for 77 years. It's not a war over territory. It's not a war over land. I'll just give you one example how we know that. On October 7, when these hideous, barbaric terrorists broke through the border of a sovereign country, Israel, with 3,000 terrorists led by Hamas. One of the most saddest moments was when a young terrorist calls their mother, and we have this all recorded, calls the mother bragging how he just killed 10 Jews. They didn't say Israelis, 10 Jews. And the blood is still on my hands. He was so proud. And the mother couldn't stop praising him. So it wasn't about killing Israelis because Israel is living on their land that they claim. It's the Jewish part of it. It's Judaism that they are after. What the world doesn't realize, and perhaps it will now, the reason why America and Israel have such an alliance is because America realizes, and many of the Western countries realize, that by Israel being in the Middle East, they are a buffer, a deterrent for the Arab Muslims to conquer the whole Middle East and then spread its caliphate, to take over the globalization, take over the world. That is what they are trying to do. We have made it to the 21st century. They're still stuck in the 7th century. And they want to bring us back there. And this is the true war that we're fighting. It's a war against us and them. They want to take over the world with their radical jihadist Islam faith. In the 1920s, it's what's known as the caliphate. That was the plan, to take over the world. And Muslim has become the fastest growing religion. Ask me why, I don't know. But the reality is that their religion is a death cult. And we don't have to look too far to prove it. I mean, just look at how the world has been terrorized in the last 7 decades. By whom? I mean, we're not mentioning the 9/11. We know that they were all Muslim hijackers, the suicide bombers, the Hamas, the Iranian regime. Just go through in our recent history who's terrorizing the world. Why we as free Americans had to change our whole life since 9/11 because someone else may try to do the same thing and hurt us. All the security measures that we have to take now. So the reality is, as he very clearly brought it out, that Islam on itself is either going to implode on each other, because you have 2 billion Muslims. Let's say 2% are radicalized, are jihadists, and the others are not. Even 2%. 2% of 2 billion. So it cannot sustain itself, because us, the West, hopefully, will be able to mobilize ourselves and be stronger and not allow the world to be faced with another enemy. We have just getting to recover from the Nazi, from the Third Reich, from that type of philosophy, from communism. We're finally able to spend a few decades in freedom. We cannot give that up. We cannot go backwards. We have to continue on moving forward. And perhaps this is the right moment also to recognize and appreciate all the wonderful gifts that God has given us in the 21st century. The leaps and bounds of technology, of innovations and inventions that the world has seen in the last few decades and even years is nothing short of miraculous. Our advances in medicine, our advances in travel and communication, in technology, in academics, in mental health. We just go through all frontiers, all areas. The world has advanced so fast. And now we're in the AI world. Who could have ever imagined it? I remember the days in the cartoons with Dick Tracy talking to his phone. Whoever thought that that's going to be a reality with the Apple Watch? So things that was only an imagination to us is reality now. So perhaps it's time to recognize that God is giving us the best of gifts. And we need to start appreciating God. We need to start recognizing God and standing on the side with God. And God is a peaceful God, a loving God. God is a God that wants us to live with each other, to coexist. God designed this world in a way that we should all have our own religion and respect each other's religion. And whatever path your religion is in, it's good for you. Just because I don't believe what you believe, it doesn't mean that I deserve to die. That's in the 7th century mentality. 21st century is live and let live. Do your thing, whatever you got to do. It's okay, we respect it. Just don't hurt me and don't kill me. And then we could coexist with each other. And people need to realize that by divine providence, whoever you were born into, whatever path of religion you were born into, that's the way God wants you to believe. If you're born into a Hindu life, then be a Hindu. If you're born a Christian, be a Christian. If you're born to Jewish, in a Jewish family, be Jewish. Judaism doesn't proselytize. We don't go out and try to convince people to join our religion. We are the smallest numbers of any religion in all times. Right now, at this day, 2025, we're about 15 million Jews in the whole world. Less than 2% of the world. We're literally the smallest religion in numbers. We could use a lot more numbers, but we don't look for it. If anyone wants to convert to Judaism, they're welcome to come and convert. And I don't know why you'd want it. Why do you want to be the most sought after, hated religion that's out there? Why do you want to put a target on your back? But I've had many members who wanted to convert, and I led them the way. I taught them, I guided them, and I helped them convert. It's not easy going from one religion to another religion when you take it seriously, when you're doing it for faith reasons, not for any other reason. It's a total transformation of your body, of your soul, of your connection to God. It's a fascinating journey, and anyone who wants to join the journey will show you the way, but we're not actively looking for it. We actually believe that everyone should believe in their religion, that they believe, that they're grown up with. That is their theological belief system. You should grow in it. If you're Christian, be a devout Christian. If you're Muslim, be a devout Muslim. At least the one that doesn't kill and torture or terrorize people. If you are a Hindu, be a devout Hindu. Be who you are, all in. But the fundamental part is unconditional love for each other, unconditional respect for each other. There's no reason why we cannot all shake hands and understand and appreciate each other, even though we believe different theological belief systems. That should have no bearing on who we are as a human being. We are all created in God's image. We are all God's children. God wants all of us to coexist together. Let's pray, and we hope that we could continuously work towards that, to greater and better times. God bless you. God loves you.